Thank you once again for making Locked On Cougars your first listen of the day. As always, please continue to subscribe, rate, and review. And I'm also going to add in a plug here for Jeff. Give him help, Brigham, Cougar Sports Insider. Everything that Jeff does, sign up for it, subscribe to it, and just be a part of it, because Jeff and the crew, I know you work with Garrett, I know you're with Robbie and those guys. You're absolutely killing it over there.
Well, we appreciate it, Jake.
All right, so big question, obviously, surrounding Jake Retzlaff. And as of recording this podcast and every podcast I've done since the lawsuit dropped, I have to add the caveat that nobody knows exactly what the timeline is on this. And you wrote about it in your preview about the impact of having Jake versus not having Jake. Give us a synopsis of where you think things stand for BYU and Jake Retzlaff.
Yeah, I have no idea what's happening with the case. Nobody has any idea what's going to happen. I think that there's still a lot of uncertainty about his status, even within the program. So the way that I look at this, there's really kind of three versions of Jake Retzlaff, or three versions of quarterback, I should say, that BYU kind of has to account for. First and foremost is, let's say that Jake does not play. Is that possible? Is it likely? I have no idea. I don't really care. Let's talk about what it means on the football field. If Jake doesn't play, and they can learn that now, what does that cost BYU? So let's go back in time a year ago. Nobody had a lot of confidence that Jake Retzlaff was going to be great, and the team ended up being very, very good. But if you look at Jake's box score, it was pretty pedestrian. It was way better than anybody thought it was going to be, but it was pretty pedestrian. I think a 20-12 touchdown to interception ratio, 2,400 passing yards, had some fumbles along the way, had some questionable decisions, was crazy clutch. He came up with big moments of that season against Utah, Oklahoma State, SMU. So the entirety of the season, I think it's easy to say that, hey, Jake Retzlaff, he's the quarterback. BYU won 11 games. You can't not have that, but I don't know, right? I look at there were 3 games that Jake Retzlaff, I'm giving him most of the credit. Yeah, the defense kept BYU in the games, all that other stuff. But those clutch moments, if Jake does not play, BYU is going to really miss those. Maybe somebody steps up and surprises us and has that gene, but I think BYU is going to miss that. That's something that's different, right? You either have it or you don't, and Jake clearly did. But beyond those clutch moments, I think that he was pretty replaceable for most of the season. 20-12, I think that's replaceable. 2,400 yards, I think that's replaceable. What did he have on the ground? 2, 3, maybe 400 rushing yards?
He had 600 rushing, even though it felt like it was lower than that. But still, that's 3,000 total offense, which is, it's replaceable, yeah.
Yeah, so it's not nothing, right? It's certainly not anything to scoff at. But I think BYU has 3 guys in the program that can replace that. So how many clutch moments are you going to have? Well, BYU had 3 last year. I don't know if that's normal. I haven't done the data to say how many last-minute drives in every year, but there were 3 last year in my head. Call that, 1.5, maybe 2 every year. That's maybe where BYU misses him. Maybe not having Jake costs BYU 1.5 games, and that sucks. That could take BYU from contender to non-contender. But that's still going to be a pretty darn good football team with or without Jake, right? And if somebody steps up and has those clutch moments, or an Isaiah Glasker goes clutch like Kyle Van Noy used to, and he comes up with clutch moments, then maybe BYU is able to, as a team, replicate that. So that's path 1, and I think that's the one that requires the most explanation. There's another path that, hey, they figure this out, charges are dropped, or whatever happens, and Jake is playing distraction-free. The team knows going into fall camp, everything's good. Cool. Then we're right back on the horse and all is well, right? I mean, everything you thought about BYU back in April remains true. Mm-hmm. And then there's a third option, and this is the scariest option to me, and I hope this is the one that BYU is able to avoid, and that's this uncertainty. That's this, okay, is he going to get suspended maybe? Is he suspended for a couple of games? And you're playing against Stanford, who you should beat by 4 or 5 touchdowns this year, but it's not really your starter. It's the last game of McCae Hillstead or whatever it is. That distraction. I mean, is the team able to prepare all summer long with this constant cloud of what might happen looming over their heads? That's the scenario that scares me, because I think that while BYU is very talented and a very good football team, they are not talented enough or good enough that they cannot be focused each and every week. They need to come in and know what they're going to do. They've got to prepare well. They've got to do all the things that they hit on last year That's still what they have to do. That's the same recipe. And distractions at the quarterback position, distractions where coaches are having to answer the same questions week in and week out. That is the kryptonite in my mind of this entire BYU formula. I think BYU can survive without Jake. Maybe they're not quite the contenders we think they are, but they could be a darn good football team. Distraction-free Jake, great. Let's go to the Big 12 championship. Feel great about BYU being very good. That distraction, unknown Jake, uncertainty, that scares me, and that's the path that BYU has to avoid.
Yeah, and that's the kind of the mindset I've had. I kind of tagged it like 2 wins in terms of Jake. So I was thinking like, okay, if you look at what the odds makers out there, FanDuel and everybody else out there, you look at the Big 12 and they think the highest anybody's going to go is 8.5, maybe 9.5 wins, and the low is 5.5. That shows you this league, top to bottom, is fairly balanced. And yeah, if you go from maybe being a 10-2 team where those 2 wins get taken away and you're an 8-4 team, yeah. Well, in the way it plays out, yeah, you go from being a contender to knocking yourself out. Now, the other side of it is, Jeff, let's say they do have a quarterback change. They're just forced to for whatever reason. Who would you favor at this juncture at taking over that job?
Yeah, I have to acknowledge some bias here. I'm a high school football guy here in the state of Utah, so let's not discount that I've seen a lot more of McCae Hillstead than I've seen of anybody else in that room, right? You're in the same boat. I think McCae's a gamer. Look, he's small. He can't even lie. He's not even big enough that you can pretend that he's not small. I mean, he's small. It is what it is. But he was able to go to Logan and as a true freshman earn that starting job and play well. I mean, he was still a true freshman, had his ups and downs, but he played well. And I get it. Utah State is not the Big 12, but I don't have a question about his arm talent or his ability to play quarterback. I have questions about his size. And even in the Mountain West, dudes are still big. Dudes are still fast. And McCae, as a true freshman, proved, hey, he could figure that out and be effective. I think I lean towards McCae over Treyson Bourguet. But I look at Treyson Bourguet and I see a lot of Baylor Romney in Treyson Bourguet. He just sort of does everything pretty good. I don't think he's not elite in any area. I don't think he's even great in any area, but he's pretty good in everything. And I don't think he's bad at anything. He's more mobile than people realize. He's accurate. He throws a pretty good deep ball. He knows the offense. He's been here for a couple of years now. So I don't think you can go wrong with Treyson Bourguet, but I think that McCae Hillstead is an absolute gamer. And when the lights turn on, that's when you get the best of McCae. So if it were me and I'm making that call, I think I lean towards Hillstead, even though he gives a little bit in size, because I think the upside is a little bit higher. And of course, the wild card is Bear Bachmeier, and it's just a matter of how quickly can Bear learn an offense. Look, Keaton Slovis played a lot of college football, right? He was, by all accounts, a very, very intelligent quarterback who had seen everything there was to see at the college football ranks. It took him longer than a spring ball in a summer to really figure out this Aaron Roderick offense. I have my doubts that any true freshman can figure it out in one summer, especially after having played at a different offense and a different scheme in the spring. Yeah. But hey, look, if Bear Bachmeier can do it, then I think he's got the talent to be the best of the bunch. That's a really big ask.
Yeah, that's the thing is like people are talking about how his brother Tiger graduated in computer science from Stanford in 2.5 years. I'm like, okay, yeah, they're smart, but you're right. There's a nuanced thing. There's a feel that you have to get into this offense and really understand to really truly master it. And you look at Zach Wilson, you look at Jaron Hall, you even look at a Keaton Slovis. It takes time to kind of get into this. And even Jake Retzlaff, the 4 games at the end of that 2023 season, he felt like he was lost at points, and then he finally settled into it. So yeah, I get what you're saying there. And then on just one more question on the quarterback side of things. When it comes to quarterback recruiting, there's obviously a ton of people who wonder what the future holds. But if Jake is done, you're right. They have the 3 guys there. You add Enoch Watson to the mix as he comes home off of a mission. Like the cupboard's not bare. Let's just put it that way. Is that right?
No, not at all. And I'm glad you mentioned Enoch because Enoch Watson's a dude. I mean, he can flat out play. I think a lot of people are looking at this quarterback room and saying, okay, Bear Bachmeier is being brought in to be the quarterback of the future. And maybe that's true. Maybe that's what he ends up being. But I can tell you right now, he's being brought in to compete with Enoch Watson to be the quarterback of the future. Enoch Watson can flat out play from ALA out there in Arizona. Very, very good quarterback, coached very, very well in high school by Ty Detmer and Max Hall. He understands the game and he understands BYU, and he has a lot of the same strengths that Bear Bachmeier does. He's a very, very good athlete. I think he might be a better thrower than Bear is today. So yeah, I think that is the competition. Both of those guys are going to be very good. And of course, Ryder Lyons. I mean, that's where everybody's looking right now. You sign Ryder Lyons and all of a sudden the entire future looks a lot different. And that's not likely. I don't know if that's likely or not, but it's not likely at this point. So I think the future of the quarterback spot at BYU looks pretty good right now.
All right. I want to get to one final thing, and it's a big weekend upcoming. Now, it kicks off 2 major weekends in recruiting for BYU, but this is the first of the 2. We'll get into who's expected to visit, what the importance of this weekend is, and we're going to talk to the man who I think knows about it more than anybody, and that's Jeff. And we'll get to that next right here on Locked On Cougars and Give Him Hell Brigham.